let's move on to something a little bit different. Um, okay, what do you think about Tibetan myths? Have you heard of any Tibetan stories, myths that like your father or your grandfather told you?
Yeah, I thought about this question when you sent them to me, and
Yeah.
Tibetan history is huge on myths.
Yeah.
We, I mean, back from I don't know if you went. Did you go to a Tibetan school when you were younger?
So I went to hymns.
Oh, okay. I mean, so they had Tibetan courses, right?
Have Tibetan courses, but it was not
So Tibetan courses included little excerpts on history and stuff.
yeah.
And one of the things I think every Tibetan student who has gone through that kind of
Yeah.
those grades, like I think grades 1 through 5 or something like that, remembers the story of Alang Dharma,
Mhm.
which I feel is like riddled with myths.
Okay, go
So
on.
much mythology. The guy had a horn, and he was like the destroyer of everything that was spiritual and religious, and if scientifically speaking or biologically speaking, if he actually had a horn and he had a deformity that caused him to have such a problem,
Yeah.
to speak about that in such a way, isn't that discrimination? To say that he was the devil or whatever the hell, or even to associate a bull with negativity, that's just.
I guess.
Anyway, so that's one of the myths that you grew up reading, but
Yeah.
apparently it's also part of history, so it's kind of you know uh, so that's one, right? You're asking about myths. Another one, I would say, is the myth of our origin. I think that's also taught in Tibetan classes between, I think, those grades.
Yeah.
The union of the monkey and the ogress,
Yeah.
or the demoness, or whatever. Six people came out of that, and then they formed the first six groups of Tibetans that would populate the rest of the earth. So those, you think about those as a rational person now, and
It seems pretty bizarre, right?
it's bizarre. But I think one interesting thing is I always try to rationalize
Yeah.
or see what's the metaphor and what's actually to be taken word for word.
Yeah.
So maybe you know now we read about Denisovans, the Tibetan genes.
Yeah.
You know about Denisovans, the how we had genes that help us live and survive high altitudes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Come on, go ahead. Tell
Yeah,
me.
so it's a part of our scientific study, and they basically found that all Tibetans had these genes that allowed them to process, I think, oxygen better in higher altitudes because there's less oxygen. And they're saying that is because we our the in the Tibetan, there was a big intermingling, or a union with Denisovans, which was a specific species of humanoid apes. I think, and that allowed us to get their genes. So
Oh,
at some point there was a monkey,
I guess.
involved.
Yeah.
I mean, we came from monkeys too,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Maybe we were the ogress. I don't know
Yeah. I
who's
don't.
we. Maybe we are the Denisovans, right?
Yeah.
Whose side do you take? Anyways, what I'm saying is that's an interesting way to take on that myth,
Yeah.
that metaphor. There's some monkey involved, whatever, and that makes us different.
Yeah.
There's that. Another myth. I mean, some of these things are ongoing, like
Yeah.
the idea of the Tibetans, saints, or what you wouldn't call them saints, I guess, ascetics, Tibetan ascetics, or monks who could fly.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That's that's crazy. I mean,
Because,
everything in the known universe is affected by gravity,
yeah.
including light, right?
Yeah.
So regardless of the practice, to defy the laws of physics, and then to levitate, I mean, all of that is I always try to think rationally. So I always try to think, okay, maybe there was something,
Yes.
something that somehow makes sense, that they were able to somehow take flight, or maybe they meant something else.
Yeah.
Well, those are all the myths that are, I think, mystical. They make Tibet,
Exactly. So, what
stories
do you
of
think
Tibet.
about Guru Rinpoche? Because Guru Rinpoche is like the main